All right, let's get started. Happy Thursday to everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Matt Dixon. I'm a agricultural meteorologist with the UK Ag Weather Center. I welcome you to the July edition of the Kentucky Monthly Climate Perspectives on Drought and Hydrologic Conditions. Hope everyone is enjoying the rain today. It's really nice to see. Some have definitely gotten more than what they want. I know portions of the southern bluegrass have already seen 4+ inches. I think I've seen 6 here and there, and it has led to some flash flood warnings. But otherwise, our speaker for today is Chip Zimmer with the Division of Water. He's going to lead us through the presentation. We'll have a question and answer session to close. Just a reminder that these presentations are being recorded and streamed live on the Kentucky Climate Center YouTube page. So with that, let's get right to it. I'll pass it along to Chip.
Good afternoon, everybody. That said, I'm Chip Zimmer with the Kentucky Division of Water. And just a quick reminder that our next webinar is going to be August 5th. And I believe Megan is going to be our speaker for that one as we kind of rotate around since Stu has now officially retired as of today. This first picture here is of Marshall County showing the rain and flooded fields from earlier this month. Just a quick reminder we have the drought impact reporter and the story map. And I already see an error right there. It should be the Kentucky Drought and Hydrologic Impact Reporter for 2021 is what you should be looking for. That 2021 is the old one. But yeah, we have the impact reporter and the story map. Impact reports are great any time of year, whether it's raining out, it's drought. Any information we can get on that is really important. A couple other pictures. I showed the wet one. This is Warren County. You can see June 11th and June 29th. You can see the corn is growing, but also you can see that the grass there is getting a little yellow. And that's kind of been the story of June. Has been some places have gotten plenty of rain, more than enough rain, and others have been kind of hurting for some rain. So at least until today. So we're going to keep the same outline going through recent conditions, then go look at impacts, and then finish up with outlooks. So we'll jump right in. First thing, these precipitation maps go through the end of Tuesday. So they did not include all this rain that hit last night and today. But you can see the past week was pretty dry around the state. The exception of out there in Western Kentucky, there was a storm system that went through. I believe that was on Tuesday that went through and put some rain down there. But for the most part, it's been a pretty dry week, which a lot of places actually need it, and was good for agriculture, which we'll talk about that in a little bit later. Just a quick update. Like Matt said, in the past 48 hours, we've got a ton of rain. Clark County has seen almost 5 inches when I did this, and it's still raining there, so it's probably higher than that now. And there's flash flood warnings across the southern bluegrass, Jefferson County, out by Owensboro. So it's some people are getting a lot of rain today, and hopefully everybody sees some. Again, this is not including the rain today, but this is the 30-day estimate, and you can see that you have places that have seen a lot of rain. Lexington, 6.01 inches. Owen County saw over 7.5 inches. So really central, northern Kentucky, and then along the Western Kentucky Parkway have really seen a lot of rain in June. But you can see some spots that didn't get a ton of rain. Again, the Owensboro, Henderson area, down in Barron, Casey County was a little drier, and also parts of eastern Kentucky. When we get out to 60 days, you see, again, the haves and has-nots, but really it's kind of a little misleading. Like you look at Fayette County, 9.34 inches. Well, 6 of that fell in June. So if you remember, April and May were pretty dry around the state. So again, they got some rain that's added onto these totals, but a lot of this came from June. And again, you can see the lower areas around the Owensboro, Henderson area, the Casey County, that kind of area, and also eastern Kentucky were a little drier. When you pan out to 90 days, you can see it evens out a little bit more, but you can still see those drier areas, same 3 locations. And again, I point out Fayette County, again, 12 inches. So that means that over the course of June, that mesonomic gauge in Fayette County received the same amount of rain in June as it did in April and May combined, which April and May are the 2 wettest months in the state. So it kind of shows that they were a little drier, but some places kind of made that up in June from all the rain that we saw. Other places, unfortunately, did not. Now looking at the monthly seasonal precipitation, just the percent of average or percent of normal precipitation, you can see again, Central Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, and along the Western Kentucky Parkway were above normal over 30 days. And then you can see those dry spots in the yellow and oranges. When you go out to 60 days, you can see where that it picks up more of that dryness. You still have those bullseyes where a lot of the rain did fall around the bluegrass, Northern Kentucky, and along the Western Kentucky Parkway. And you can still kind of see that in 90 days, but you lose more of that as more of that dryness from April, May gets picked up. And if you're just looking at that map, you can say, wow, Kentucky is really dry. But if you remember, April, May, while they were dry, they were also very cool. So we didn't lose a lot of soil moisture. It was not like 2012 where we had that warm, dry March that really ate into the soil moisture. So once we started summer, Western Kentucky was already behind the 8 ball in terms of soil moisture. We really didn't have that problem this year. The soil moisture in some places was a little low, but nothing too significant. So we are a lot better shape. It's more of a, the dryness is all bark, no bite kind of type situation. So, and we'll kind of look at the soil moisture here in a minute. And this is the SPI. This is the Standardized Precipitation Index. This takes all the records for precipitation throughout the historical record and kind of puts them in a bell curve. And then the colors represent how many standard deviations you are from normal, wet or dry. And you can see for 30 days, most of Central Kentucky is kind of in that 0 to 1 standard deviation above normal precipitation. And Western and Eastern Kentucky are in that 0 to -1 standard deviation in dryness. Nothing too far off of the normal. And you can still see that in 60-day and the 90-day. In the 90-day, you pick up a little more of that dryness again. You get a couple standard deviations there in Eastern Kentucky and also in that Owensboro area. Temperatures. So looking at the average minimum temperature for June, see most of the state was just a little above normal, nothing too crazy. But if you look at the highs, the average maximum highs for June, you can see most of the state was about average. Northeast Kentucky was a little below average. The I-65 corridor was a little above average. But all in all, we were average. And really how it played out was we had a couple of weeks where we were fairly cool in June and a couple of weeks that was a little hot. Nothing like the West Coast has seen, but a little above normal. So it all kind of averages out. So it really hasn't been too bad in terms of temperature for June. Looking at soil moisture and groundwater, you can see on the soil moisture, most of the state is around average. You can see right there in southern Indiana and into the Owensboro areas have a little dryness. When looking at the GRACE groundwater drought indicator, it's not even picking up that. It's showing groundwater levels are normal to even a little above normal. So like I said, in terms of soil moisture, groundwater, we're in really good shape going this time of year. So that dryness in March and April, just without the warm temperatures, really just didn't put us in too big of a hole in terms of soil moisture. And looking at a few mesonet stations, the top 2 are Clark County and Grayson County, which are 2 of those areas that have been pretty wet in June. And you can see there from about the 10th through the 13th, where we had some big rainstorms come through. You can see that soil moisture really jumped up. And yeah, the 2-inch started to come down a little bit, and then we got another rain, and then it started to come down again. Typical summer type pattern, but it never got super low. Grayson County never got below 20% soil moisture, which is pretty good for the summer. If you go down to the bottom two, it's Allen County and Henderson County are two of the drier areas for June. And again, they got in on some of that rain in the beginning, first half of June. The Allen County, you can see most of the soil levels started to drop and did get down. The 2 and 4 inch soil moistures got down to the 12%, which is getting pretty dry. They, I'm sure, started jumping up now, but it shows that they have dried out, but nothing too bad yet. Especially the subsoils are still in pretty good shape. Henderson, which was pretty dry, the soil wasn't reacting nearly as much. The 2 inch soil levels started dropping down to 12%, but the deeper levels, the soil moisture was holding strong. So that's a good sign. Evaporative demand index. Now, the latest it posted is June 19th, and this basically shows how thirsty the air was, how much the air was pulling pulling moisture out of the ground. So the week of June 19th, you can see the 1 week eddy was really, really thirsty. It was that was a warm, dry week that we had there, and it was really pulling out the moisture out of the soil. But if you look at the entire month, really the first 2/3 of June, it was pretty normal around Kentucky. We had, like I said, it's picking up that wet week that we had there around the 10th to 13th of June. So it all kind of averages out to being a normal June, which is still going to have a high evaporation rate in terms of the year. That's typical for June. But all in all, you can see on both of those, so the west and northern U.S. have just been that's where it's been hot and dry. And I'm sure if we got this updated to current day, you'd see the Pacific Northwest. They probably have to invent a new color for that area. It's hot and dry as it's been this past week. Stream flows, 7-day stream flows, pretty much normal. You have a few places that are below normal, a few places that are above normal. But all in all, nothing too extreme. 28-day, same thing. Now you're picking up on some of those heavy rains and flash flood events we had earlier in June. So you do see some more stream flows that are above average, even in the 28-day. So that shows how much water was in those streams earlier in rivers and streams, how much water was in those rivers to show above normal conditions in the 28-day. Current flooding, really there is, well, as of when I took this on yesterday, there was no flooding. That probably is changing right now, but currently, as of yesterday, there was no flooding anywhere in the state, just normal stream flows. Now looking at the U.S. Drought Monitor, looking at the Ohio Valley, the southern U.S., southeastern U.S., I should say, pretty good shape. You see little pockets of D0, couple of pockets of D1 over in the Carolinas and Virginia, but all in all, pretty good shape. If you look west and if you look north, lots of drought. The whole western U.S. Is really getting hit hard with drought, and now it's expanding across the entire northern tier, even stretching into the New England states. So a lot of drought across the U.S. Luckily, we're not in that area. And if you look at the 1 month change, you can see how much deterioration there has been across the northern U.S. and into Maine and the New Hampshire, Vermont area. As for our part of the world, last month there was some D0, D1. I think there was even some D2 out in the Carolinas, Virginia area, even some D0 in Eastern Kentucky, and most of that is going away. You can see a lot of improvement in that area. You do see the 1 class degradation around the Henderson, Owensboro area. And that's where we are right now. You can see this week's map. You can see going from Meade County down to Union County along the Ohio River, just a little D0. That area is currently under a flood advisory, so I would not expect that to be there next week. But as of this week, there was some abnormally dry conditions across the western part of the state. Now, speaking of drought, we are in one type of drought, and that's severe weather drought. If you kind of notice, it's been a pretty quiet year this year. And this graph shows it right here that since this is looking at the past 10 years, 11 years, back to 2010, this has been the quietest year in terms of severe weather compared to the rest of the years. And you can see 2011 and 2012 were exceptional years. 2012 was the year of the tornado outbreaks that we had back in late February, early March that hit West Liberty and Salyersville. But this year it's been a really quiet. June was probably you can see June was the most active month, and it's still pretty quiet compared to some other Junes. So really, and a lot of that had to do with the cold March, April, May that we had. Just wasn't a lot of severe weather, and that's our real big severe weather season. So it's been a quiet year. Like I said, we did have some, but this year, June was probably the most active month we've had, and you can see here on this map, we had several different storm events that brought flash flooding. Down June 10th, we had a big flash flooding event down in southeastern Kentucky, especially in the Boonesville area. Got hit really hard. On the 13th, we had an event that hit the Midway Stamping Ground area in Scott County, Franklin County, Woodford County area. And then on the 19th, we had a big event that hit the Northern Kentucky area of some flash flooding. There was some wind damage that accompanied those events, especially in southern and central Kentucky. But the big story was just the flash flooding we had from some of these big thunderstorms that just had tons of tropical moisture to work with. They put down a lot of rain in a hurry. And we're seeing that again today. I said drought impacts are important. For the drought impact reporter, we just had one report so far this year. So again, it doesn't have to be drought conditions. You can go out today and say that it's wet, and that's helpful. So just anytime that you can submit drought reports, if the normal reports, wet reports, whatever it is, just it's great to have that data so we can look at it and it helps determine the drought levels for the state when we're drawing up the maps and submitting them, the recommendations to the U.S. Drought Monitor. So agriculture, all in all, agriculture is in pretty good shape this year. If you look at the crop progress, everything's pretty much on schedule or maybe a little bit behind, especially the winter wheat harvest. It's normally supposed to be at 82%. It's only at 68%, but you see in the past week, it made a big gains. As a lot of the winter wheat finally matured, it was delayed from that cool weather we had back in the spring. But as it matured and we had a nice dry week, a lot of farmers were able to get out there and harvest it. So it jumped up almost 30% in the past week. And Matt Dixon took those pictures down there at the bottom of farmers baling the straw after they harvested the wheat. In terms of crop conditions, most of the majority of them are in the good category, which is what we want to see. We do see a decent amount in the fair, between 15 and 20%, depending on the crop. Some of that's probably from the areas that have missed out on the rain. And some of that's actually probably from the wetness. I know I saw reports from UK College of Ag talking about fields where the corn and soybeans were kind of getting stunted from fields that were just too wet. So it's probably a mixture of too wet and too dry, and that's pushing stuff into that fair category. But all in all, conditions are pretty good. We like seeing lots of good and excellent crop reports. 7-day precip totals. This is the quantitative precip forecast. And see there's a decent amount of rain across the Kentucky. Most of that is day one, which is today. So what you're seeing on there is mostly what's falling today. The rest of the 7-day looks pretty dry for Kentucky, which probably is going to be a good thing. Places that need to dry out a little bit, but we're getting a good dose of rain right now, which is needed for some areas. looking at the forecast, this is the 6 to 10 day outlook. You can see Kentucky, for temperature wise, we're right on the edge of the normal to above normal. And basically what that's saying is that if you're in that gray area, you have a 33% chance of being below normal, a 33% chance of being normal, and a 33% chance of being above normal. So basically no signal, or it could just, so it could go any way. Once you start getting up in the reds, it means there's a higher percentage chance of it being warmer than normal. So we're right on the edge of that. So it might be warmer, it might be cooler, it might be normal, but not a really strong signal anyway. If you get up into the Northwest and into New England, that's where it's likely going to be hot, above normal temperatures, 6 to 10 days out. And down Texas and the Gulf Coast, it's going to be cooler than normal. As for precipitation, we can see we're in that signal for above normal chances for higher chances for above normal precipitation. And you can see that stretching all the way from Texas all the way up through the Ohio Valley. And again, the western, northwestern US, again, in that bullseye for the drier weather, which is something they do not need. Go to 8 to 14 day, that warmer signal sinks a little further south. So we're kind of, the whole state's in that warmer signal. And we're also in the bullseye for the wetter signal. And again, the Pacific Northwest and Western US is in that hot and dry bullseye. Again, the forecast for July, again, we are in kind of in between that hot, warm and cool signal. It probably means we're going to be bouncing back and forth. Honestly, we're probably going to have, just like June, where we had a couple cool weeks, we had a couple warm weeks, and it all kind of works out to average in the end. And again, we're in that signal for above normal precipitation again. So hopefully that stays true and we continue to get rain. And again, the poor Western US, hot and dry. And for the forecast for July, August, and September, again, kind of in that warmer section again. Western Kentucky's kind of in the equal chances. And again, we're in that wetter signal. So really looking through the summer, looks to be kind of warm and wet if this holds true. So monthly stream outlooks, the average mean daily stream flow outlook for the state. This is generated on the 29th, going normal to above, a few above normal places. Again, if we looked at this today, there might be a few more above normals, but all in all, it's good to be not seeing any orange and red in there. Seasonal flood outlook shows all gauges at 25% or less for the long range flood risk, which again may be changing right now, but this is for 3 months. So that's typically what we see in the summer. We don't see large term big river flooding this time of year. That's more of a winter spring type thing. So that's kind of typical. Decided to add this in. Obviously, we don't get hit by hurricanes, but we do see the impacts from them as we get the leftover remnant storms come up from the Gulf and give us rain. The forecast is for a active hurricane season. We're already seeing that. We've already had 4 named storms this year, and there are 2 more that are brewing in the Atlantic right now. So a busy start, and it's probably going to continue on through the season. And with that, if you go back to the outlooks, you see that we were in that wet pattern that was coming out of the Gulf. So if that's indeed the storm track, anything that gets into the Gulf, that means there's a higher than normal chance that's going to come up through our region. So they bring some widespread rain, very helpful in drought seasons, but even in a normal year, helpful in preventing any type of dryness from occurring. But they can also bring way too much rain and a lot of wind to this area too. The forest fire outlook, you can see all of the southeastern U.S., including Kentucky, is in the below normal for the significant chance for wildfires, and then the western, northern, northwest U.S. is above normal with all the drought and the high temperatures. So not surprising there. But for us, shouldn't see too much in the way of significant wildfires, at least for July. So in summary, like I said, it's been kind of it's been a wet month for a lot of people in the state, but not everybody. There have been pockets of dryness in places, especially along the Ohio River in Western Kentucky and South Central Kentucky. And it was a slightly warmer than normal month, but nothing too out of the ordinary. And we did have some cool periods mixed in. Agriculture remains in good shape going into the heart of the summer. We're going into the time for silking, which is a significant time for the making sure that the corn gets fertilized, and that's for getting the kernels to develop. And it's also a time where the corn needs a lot of water, and so it's getting it right now. So that's a good thing. And as we head in through July, we expect normal to above normal temperatures and hopefully above normal precipitation as well. So, and what we have out right now, hopefully will eliminate any remaining pockets of dryness that we have out there. So that's all that I have. I guess I'm going to turn it over to Megan.
I'm here, Chip. So,
or Matt, one of you two.
So, no, that's awesome info. Thanks for the great presentation. Sounds like we are all in pretty good shape right now. A lot of positives, exactly what we want to hear, and just hope it stays that way. So we'll now pass it on and see if anyone has any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself or submit a question in the chat box. So with that, does anyone have any questions?
This is Tom Marshall. Let me ask you, how do you define severe drought, and what is the reasonableness of expecting another severe drought, or a drought of record?
Well, according to the drought monitor, once you get into severe drought, which would be D2, that's about a 1 in 20, 1 in 15, 1 in 20 year drought. So that's when we really, so looking at percentiles, you should get one about every 20 years or so. And then it goes up from there. Once you get into D3 and D4, you're looking at 1 in every 25 year and 1 in 50 year droughts. So that's kind of how it's defined.
Do you know what 2012 was? Was it D2, D3?
Western Kentucky was D4. That was a significant drought, mainly west of the land between the lakes. For the rest of the state, it was about a D2, depending on it, and even Eastern Kentucky probably only D1. So.
Okay. Do you think using the drought of record from the 30s is a reasonable thing when people are making plans for things such as water plants, water withdrawal?
I think so. That one, and also the 54-55 drought, which was a kind of a 2-year drought.
Okay.
Those are the two drought of records. That was a very dry time for the eastern U.S. And we haven't really seen anything like that since then. The 80s and 90s were dry, but not to that degree. So we've been in a very exceptionally wet period the past 10 to 15 years.
Is there any forecast on whether that might change?
I wish there was, so we know that's coming, but think your guess is as good as mine. I mean, at some point it's got to end, but when that's going to happen is anyone's guess.
Well, thank you.
No problem. Anybody else?
Awesome question. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Chip.
That's what I was going to say. Anybody else have any more questions? I do see that Tom Miller is talking about Ballard County really being dry. Tom, if you're on, how's it been today? Has Ballard County been getting in on the rain?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We got fairly light rain this morning, like where I live in the southern part of the county. I've had over an inch, probably close to 2 inches in the last 3 days. And here in La Center and along Highway 60, I bet we haven't got 3 to 4 tenths out of all of it so far.
Okay. That'll definitely be an area to keep an eye on then.
Yeah, it looks, and all our corn is pollinating this week, so we really need the water.
Tom, I do have some good news for you. In case you weren't aware, we do have a Mesonet station coming online soon in Ballard County.
Yep.
It's up by Bandana. So
yep, I've seen the I worked with Stu on that, and I've seen they've
great.
got part of a little tower sitting there. I haven't seen anything done in a few months now out there. But
yeah, we've been waiting on instrumentation to come in. It's been all slow because of COVID, but we do expect to get it online within the next week or two. So
well, I mean, we're so close to Barkley Field, but it can rain up there. It rains at that mall every day when we don't need a rain, and or when we really need a rain, it rains up there every day and doesn't rain a drop here. So who knows?
Anybody else have any questions? I see Ben put they've had about 1.1 3/4 inch plus today down in Fulton County. So we'll welcome all this rainfall until we get in that 4 or 5 inch category. All right. Good discussion. Thanks again for joining us today. We'll have Megan Shargarowski with the Kentucky Mesonet hosting the next webinar planned for Thursday, August 5th, 2021 at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. Also, we have a look at the Kentucky Drought Hydrologic Impact Reporter. Like Chip was saying and Tom was alluding to there, rainfall can be rather scattered, spotty this time of year. So one part of the county might be looking pretty good. The other part of the county, maybe not so much. So using that impact report really helps us out, know where those spots are that may be negatively impacted. So with that, we'll look forward to seeing you here next month, and hope everyone has a happy and safe 4th of July.
Matt, I do want to say something real quick before too many other people take off. As most of you know, Stu Foster retired as of yesterday. And so Megan Shargarowski, will be interim director of the Kentucky Climate Center and interim state climatologist until the new hire is made. That'll be later this year or sometime next year. So please, if you have any questions in that realm of things, my contact information is listed here in place of Stu's. So I believe his email may still be working, but you might get a kickback of some sort of automated message. So if you need anything, I'm here. Please get in touch with me. So I look forward to presenting to all of you next month.